Hi, Contessas. Welcome to the Career Contessa podcast, your shortcut to being more fulfilled, healthy, and successful at work. I'm your host, Lauren McGoodwin. We're back today with another episode in our 3 in 30 series, where we bring you three tangible tips in 30 minutes that you can implement in your career right now. My co host for the series is Marnie Lemonik, a career coach and a regular on the podcast. Hi, Marnie.
Hello and happy August, everyone. Today we are closing out our three-part summer series on career clarity. So far, we've covered how to find initial clarity on your next career move and how to start taking action towards that new reality. We'll link both part one and part two in the show notes. For today, we couldn't end the series without talking about the concept of the waiting season. These are more common than we tend to think. I was just telling Lauren before we hit record that I feel like so many people I speak to are in this right now. So today we're going to combine honoring the stage that you're in if it is a waiting season, but naturally still giving you those tangible tips to help navigate it because that's what we do here. So let's do our usual personal catch up before we dive in. Lauren, how are you handling the back to school vibes over there?
I'm so excited for them. No, I heard someone describe it the other day as like it's like a regime change for your kids. And I really relate to that because I do feel like, your kids are in school, then you have to get them into their summer schedule, and then you have to get them out of their summer schedule back into school. So I'm excited, but I'm also a little anxious just because it will be the new transition, new schedule. My kids have also been going to summer camp together. So any of the working parents on here know like the magic of one drop off, and then I'm about to go back to two drop offs. So it's not terrible, but it's just again like the regime change of like the season. But I will tell you in general, I like back to school season. I like the fresh start. I love the whole like go get a haircut, a new pair of shoes. Like I don't know what the adult version of all that is, but like go, get your hair done. Maybe like swap your workout pants for different workout pants. I don't know. So yeah, I in general am ready for the fall. LA is kind of funny too because we don't really have this like dramatic shift in the season. So it's more just like it's September, but it feels like summer still, but you're still like mentally trying to get into that season. But yeah, I cannot say that I'm sad to see summer go. I just feel like for working parents, summer is like really tough to try to do all the things.
No, I totally get that. It's funny because growing up, I loved summer and I don't dislike it now, but I do feel like it's also just a different vibe when naturally you work too.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to a lot of my clients and friends about that, just the age-old struggle of it's so beautiful out, so why am I sitting inside on a computer? I feel like in the fall, it's just cozier. It's easier to feel productive and motivated, whereas in the summer, anything feels like a heavy lift because you just want to be outside all the time.
Yeah, like in an ideal world, you're like, I work fully remote and I go to my like lake cabin for 3 months. And you're like, one, I don't have a lake cabin. Two, I can't do that. Three, like the internet probably wouldn't work. Like it's like you have this fantasy, but the reality is just so dramatically different. And then if you have little kids on top of that, that's totally different. And I'm sure people who have older kids are like, well, we can't go on vacation because they've got this sport or this other thing that they're like intertwined with. And it is funny. I live by a high school, and so like seeing the kids just like ride their bike, like they're a little bit older, maybe like not driving yet, and they're just like riding their bikes and like just staying busy for the summer. And it's kind of this like weird nostalgia of like, yeah, your parents are like, get out of the house, go entertain yourselves, you know? That must be a nice age. I'm not at that point yet, but it is fun to see like them sort of enjoying that piece of summer to your point. That's why people like it when they're younger, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad that's still around in the technology age. I feel like I was the last generation to be raised with less technology as a kid. And so I just assume that everyone's inside all the time. So love that bike riding is still a thing. That makes me sound so old.
Well, where I live, the e-bikes are like the thing. It's like if you can't drive, then you have an e-bike, which is like kind of like being able to have access to a car, which is nuts to me. That is definitely not something we had growing up. It was you were walking or you were actually riding a bike with a lot of effort. So yeah, that's really changed their world. But yeah, in general, I feel like back to school season kind of brings on, I think it's very appropriate that we're talking about this waiting season because I also feel like summer in general can sometimes feel like a waiting season for people because you're like, oh, I got to get through summer before I can do this thing. Or I know a lot of people are like, I got to wait till my kids are back in school and then I can start doing this other thing. So I think this episode and the timing of it is very appropriate.
I totally agree. Let's dive right in. Our first step for this process is really to identify the why behind your waiting season. This may sound like an obvious one, but we're putting it first because it's surprisingly overlooked. We're often in a waiting season, what Lauren just spoke to, because of something pretty specific. And when we don't keep that reason top of mind, it can feel like we're stuck against our will rather than making a strategic decision to stay on the current path until it's time for the next move. So, this is all about feeling empowered and making it clear again that you're not necessarily stuck. Let's talk about a few specific examples of whys behind waiting seasons so that you can think about your own personal one. I have a list of three, and number two is actually an example from a recent coaching client of mine. So there is some hypothetical and realistic ones in here just because I wanted to touch a few different themes. First example, in order to get to my next step, I need to go back to school and I can't start that program until next fall. So, in the meantime, I'm going to continue saving money from my current paycheck and use the mental space I have from being in a job I can easily perform to appropriately prepare my applications. Second example, the priority for me these next few years is to grow and learn as much as I can in my career because I know I want to take a step back to spend dedicated time with my family once I have my first kid in the next 2 to 5 years. Third example, I know I'm looking for a very specific type of team culture and people leader in my next role. While I'm ready to leave my current role, I want to be intentional about the team I decide to join. And because of that priority, I know my job search could take longer to find the best fit. For me, the short-term sacrifice is worth a long-term payoff of not having to job search again a year from now. Once you have your own why identified, you can use it to motivate you on those days where you really need it. And you can also use it to give yourself a little bit of grace because often when we're in this waiting season, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make concrete progress every single day. And sometimes just addressing where you are is enough. We want to find that balance of keeping yourself evolving, moving in the right direction, but not being too hard on yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one, naming it, calling it, identifying it is all really, really helpful. It's kind of like naming the emotion, like it becomes really helpful when you're having big, strong feelings about things. I also think it reminds you like you're way more in control and you are being proactive, even if you feel like I'm sort of waiting. I also think there's things that you can do during that waiting season. For example, in the first example you gave about the person who's, in order to, I need to go back to school, I can't start the program until next fall. In the meantime, I'm going to do these things. It's like, yes, you could save money. You could also, set up three networking calls with people who are in the future, occupation that you want to go into. So if you're feeling like you're not doing enough, that's probably a you thing, and probably just like because you're wired like that. And also, there are, little micro goals that you could set along the way. I'm sort of really into the theme of like micro moments, micro goals, micro experiments that you could run with yourself too. So just like food for thought for anyone who maybe is like, I've identified this, but I'm still sort of feeling like I need to be doing more. Like, okay, don't maybe like go and be like, I'm gonna do a completely different 180 because this thing isn't happening fast enough. Maybe you could do like a micro thing in the meantime if that's something that you need in order to help with like those anxious feelings.
I love that idea. It definitely is a balance of scratching that itch almost and knowing when you have gas in the tank and you want to give it to the goal versus knowing when to rest. So the micro in between, I think, is really good advice.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the rest thing. I remember I had like a slow moment at work and my boss told me, and I was like kind of anxious about it. I was like, I feel bad that I am having this slow moment. And he's like, there are a lot of people where if they said that, maybe I would be concerned. You're not one of those people, and you should enjoy the rest because one thing I know is like it will ramp up. And so, one, I probably should have been able to tell myself that, but it was nice to sort of have permission or a reminder from someone else. Like it's okay to have slow moments. So take it from me. I think what Marnie just said about like, it's okay to have a moment of rest too and not feel guilty about it. That's like my own wiring of like, I feel like I always need to be doing something. Otherwise, I'm doing nothing. And it's just not as black and white as that. So that's a really good reminder as well. Okay, step two is define your personal quote success metric and find a system of consistency. Similar to the goal setting we outlined in July's episode, we want you to have some kind of North Star that you can use to give this period of time some meaning and some purpose. While the why is a helpful reminder from Marnie's first tip, it's not enough to keep you sustained because you also need a goalpost for accountability, which is where the success metric comes into play. This success metric doesn't have to be something you do forever, but it should follow any SMART goal process, which means SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So if you're actively on the job search, the goals that we outlined in part two episode from July are a perfect starting point. But for those of you who have been with us this whole Career Clarity series, we want to share a few more examples with less straightforward than like a full-on job search from our own career. So I can go first with my first example from the summer. An example is my initial why for being in a waiting season is that I've been reassessing the long-term direction of, the Career Contessa brand, the Career Contessa podcast. I don't want to make a quick pivot or launch something new just to feel like I'm moving forward. So my success metric has become spend 1 hour per week researching and journaling on potential future directions for the podcast, just really kind of like having some self-reflection, but making sure that it's on my calendar. And I know that sounds small, but it was specific, measurable, and most importantly, realistic for the season that I'm in. Like I said, I even blocked it off on my calendar for every Friday morning, and I kept a Google Doc where I brain dumped ideas and reflections. I will be honest, some weeks the hour turned into two, other weeks I could barely get, 15 or 30 minutes. But I think the key here is that having consistent low pressure structure has helped me stay connected to the bigger picture and not feel like I'm drifting. It's also really helped. Again, I'm a person where I can like be very hard on myself for not feeling like I'm quote doing enough. And so it has been able to like kind of scratch that itch for me as well. And that feels good. I'm not saying like put something on your calendar just to check it off to say that you checked it off, but I think your personality best, and like when you can kind of go overboard and when you're like, look, I need to consistency is more important than having this like super intense moment of I'm going to get my life together all in one day sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we've all had a lot of those moments where it's like late at night or a Sunday evening, and you're like, I'll just change my life tomorrow night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the way that you kept yourself consistent too, because this comes up with so many goals and just habits. But once you have it top of mind for a period of time, you naturally tend to have realizations about it. That comes up with job searching stuff all the time too. It's
Yeah.
like once you're looking for a red convertible, you see all the red convertibles. That same principle. And so the fact that even though it was that small amount of time, it was every week, I imagine helped you find some more clarity and feel progress quicker.
Yeah, and I think that when you spread things out over like a longer amount of time, at least for me, it's really helpful. Most things are not going to be instant, right? And when they are instant, it's like, well, actually, you were planting seeds long time ago, and they're starting to come out. So yeah, that's helped me. And I again, going back to like the first thing, like these micro moments that are like these SMART goals, like what's something really specific, something that you can measure, something that again gives you this feeling of meaning and purpose and progress, but it is connected to the overall impact you're trying to make, which is find a new job, start a new business, do whatever the thing is that you're doing. I think, I mean, I talked about this in my whole book, Power Moves. This is all based on the concept of like people think of the power move like, walking in and quitting the job, but it's actually all these micro power moves that you're making on a regular basis that really add up to this like career of purpose, this career that you are proactively directing. And so, obviously, if I write about it, I have to also be willing to live that, and that's what I'm trying to practice for sure.
I love that so much. My example is one that I would say is a little bit more tied to a direction that I know I want to go in, but I haven't necessarily been putting the consistency against it. So I am a full-time career coach, as I think most of you know, and something that I've been running up against in my career is just my calendar being limiting, and I only have so many hours in the day. And so I've definitely made a conscious decision to try and lean a little bit more into content just so that I can grow that side of my business. And I decided in July to post 3 times a day on TikTok. regardless of what happened. And I think for me, the consistency of having that metric and knowing I was doing it no matter what was really empowering because for anyone that posts on social media, I feel like you appreciate this. It's so focused on external validation. And I didn't have any videos that I would say like blew up in that period of time. Which was also a really interesting test to be like, okay, I'm not seeing a lot of external momentum and I still have to do it. But I kept myself consistent because I knew that it was something that was important to me in the future. And I knew that July was kind of this special window of time where I would be able to dedicate to it. Whereas the spring and early summer was really busy. August through the end of the year is always really wild with coaching. And so I wanted to take a month that I thought would be a little bit slower and really invest time into seeing that through. So it's funny because I wouldn't say to your point, it didn't lead to like any big aha moment where it's like, okay, done, I've fixed everything now. But it reoriented my mind in terms of what I think is quote unquote hard work, which is also something that's really fun about the consistency too. Now that I go back to posting one time a day, I'm like, man, this is so much easier than posting a day. So I feel like sometimes it's just a matter of showing yourself what you're capable of.
Wow, I'm very impressed that you did posting on TikTok 3 times a day. Like that is very, very, very impressive. I'm also like, why? No, I'm just kidding. It's like that is like my like just the idea. If someone was like, you have to do that, I don't know that I could. I just don't. Yeah. I mean, you know, the interesting thing about that is I feel like that'd be really fun to do with somebody else. Here's the thing about entrepreneurship. You're often having to do that like by yourself in your own like world. And so I will say one part of something I've learned a lot about myself when it comes to like the creative process or like creation of stuff. I'm like, yeah, I love doing that with other people. And it's funny because I always think of myself as like a massive introvert. And it's like, I am a little bit, except for like the creation process. So I'm very impressed that you did that. And I know you as a solopreneur, like had to do it, like you have to do all the things, you know? So very, very impressed with that, Marnie.
Oh, yeah, I totally plus one to entrepreneurship is a lot of solo stuff. That's why I love doing the podcast with you too, because it's just such a treat to have someone to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, just somebody besides yourself to talk to. Like, very, very relatable.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so step three is create a reward system that excites you without going too overboard. So Marnie, I'll let you start with this one.
Yeah, I mentioned, I think a few episodes back that I was finally reading Atomic Habits and
The
Lauren
best.
read it forever ago, so I was finally catching up. But this whole tip is inspired by that. If you're familiar with Atomic Habits, you're going to see how all these elements are going to tie in to what they call the habit loop in that book in particular. But the ultimate issue with motivation is often just a lack of being consistent, like we spoke about. So we're going to end with one of the most effective, what we're calling habit reinforcers, which is a reward for doing a said habit. So if you're struggling with that consistency, we're going to go through some ideas on what a reward should be for you. Because again, we don't want it to be too overboard. But there are some parameters that we want to lay in the sand for you. So, first is it should be something that feels special. It should be something that keeps you in line with the direction you want to be moving. And maybe most importantly, the scale of the reward should match the scale of the accomplishment. So, we are breaking each of these into a little bit more detail so that you can see examples and what we mean by this. And I'm going to take the scale of the reward piece just because I have some experience with that one. So, Lauren, I'll let you dive into the first few.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so number one, it should feel special. So, for example, if you make a cappuccino every morning, then simply getting a cappuccino at a local coffee shop might not feel like enough of a quote payoff or difference from the status quo. But if you're someone who only drinks black coffee at home, like me, then walking to your favorite coffee shop to get a fun drink could feel like a true reward and something that genuinely you look forward to. I will tell you, this is something I do, like that Friday morning block off. I drop my kids off at summer camp and then I walk down to a coffee shop and that's when I try to do this. So it's almost like my reward is happening while I'm doing the thing, but it feels really, really special. And then number two, it should be something that keeps you on your ideal path. So if you're looking to move into a role where you can be closer to, I don't know, the fitness industry, then a reward of getting, you know, a new workout set or simply taking care of your body, like a bubble bath or going for a walk with your weighted vest, like this is where I'm at in life. You guys can tell now. Could be both fun and motivating. On the reverse side, if you're trying to get more into your local fitness community as part of the career move, the reward of going out drinking with your friends on a Friday night before a Saturday morning run club might not achieve the type of dopamine hit you were looking for. And in fact, it might sort of cause this like demotivation. So, if it's hard to think of something that keeps you on your ideal path, just think of it this way. Is it something that is helping you stay motivated to keep wanting to do the work that you've set out to do? So, for example, being hungover on a Saturday morning probably isn't going to make you more motivated to go to that workout class where you're trying to network with somebody who works at ClassPass and that's the place you want to get a job. Like just think of kind of the breadcrumbs and kind of follow them. And if they're leading you away from the thing, then let's readjust the reward.
It's like staying in line with the person that you're actively trying to become or embody versus moving away from that.
Yeah, totally.
And then last but not least, we have the scale of the award should match the scale of the accomplishment. So you're probably noticing from the other examples that you can have rewards that cost money or rewards that are free, depending on the North Star you're tracking against. You can have different scales of each of those, both paid rewards and then free rewards. When I hit really big work milestones, something I've started doing, and this works really well if you're someone who gets the shoppies, a client taught me that phrase, aka the shop is I keep a list in my phone of things that I want to buy that are maybe a little bit more like higher ticket items, like a nice Aura ring or some kind of new bag, or even smaller things like just new coffee I want to try at home. And then I tie those to specific accomplishments that I have in my business. So there's certain things that I track when it comes to social media, income, all these things. And so if I hit a quote unquote bigger goal, then maybe I'll get a bigger reward. It kind of reminds me of if anyone used to do this in school, and Lauren, I don't know if they still do this or if your kids will at some point, those fundraisers where you had to sell like a certain amount of gift wrapping. It was gift wrapping for me, and then you get to unlock a really cool reward. It's gamifying it a little bit for you, and then also making sure that, again, you're not going overboard and just buying a new workout set every week just for fun, you know?
Yes, I can tell you they definitely are still obsessed with fundraising at schools. I've bought so many random things. Yeah, I really like this. I also was thinking like it's funny. I have a big ticket item, so I want to like not like redo my office space, but I want to like put wallpaper, make it pretty, and it's like my big ticket item if slash when I get promoted. I'm like, when I get promoted at work and I get that big, like that will be my big reward. So it's funny that you say this because it's like I have a big ticket item and then I have like the small ticket item, which is like go get a cappuccino. And I'm like, I need more like middle of the road things to stay motivated. Because I also think waiting seasons could be applied to like if you're not job searching right now and you're in a job, it could be like getting through a big project or launching a thing. Like I remember I had like a big webinar I was hosting at Atlassian, and I was like, okay, when this thing is over, I'm going to go for a walk down at the Strand, listen to a podcast, and like not check Slack. Like little stuff like more middle of the ground stuff. So, sorry, middle of the road stuff. Yeah, I love this perspective. I think this is a really fun idea to also keep the running list of milestones. And I think, above all of these to-dos, you just need to keep in mind that a waiting season is 100% normal. And you're probably going to have multiple ones. I mean, if you're doing your career right, you are going to have multiple ones throughout your career because that means that you are being proactive in the direction you're going, not just reacting to whatever comes your way. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're not making progress. It just simply means that you're recalibrating in some way for an even brighter next step. And I think that that's something to just really keep in mind that sometimes there's that discomfort that comes before like those big growth moments. And I've said this before in the podcast, but we'll go back to my mom is from the Midwest, loves football, and she loves to tell me like you got to hang in the pocket a little longer. It's a football metaphor because the quarterback hangs in the pocket before he throws the ball to ideally the person that catches it and scores the touchdown. Okay. Like if you don't know football, I'll give you enough context to understand. But like you're hanging in the pocket. Your waiting period is you're hanging in your pocket. And that's okay. That's the way to do it. Like I said, if you were just constantly zooming around, I'd be like, wow, you are just reacting to what comes at you. And those are the people who also wake up and go, how did I end up here? Like I'm not in a career I hate, yada yada. So think of it this way: the waiting periods mean you're on the right road and you're doing the right thing and you are taking your time getting there, which is really truly the best way to do it.
I think that's the perfect ending. I have nothing else to add there.
Well, amazing. You guys, thank you as always for listening to the Career Contessa podcast. Marnie, I'll let you do the ending because I want to do a little shout out at the end for some feedback.
Oh, perfect. Okay, sounds good. So thank you as always for listening to another 3 and 30. We are wrapped with the Career Clarity series, but we will be back in September with another standard 3 and 30 episode. And we are going to be talking all about how to articulate, identify your career story, which is relevant regardless of what season you're in. So definitely come back for that. And if you have questions you want to see answered as part of that episode, you can always DM me on Instagram. We'll put my handle in the show notes.
Yeah, and I just do want to do a quick shout out about we really, really want to know your guys' feedback on either these specific episodes or this series in general. We're starting to plan and think about 2026. So let us know if you like this series, if you want more of it, especially with me and Marnie. You can reach out to Marnie on Instagram or myself on LinkedIn. I know we're on different socials. Actually, Marnie, you're pretty active on LinkedIn too. So if that's your preferred channel, you can also get a hold of Marnie there. And we'll drop all those socials in the show notes. And just want to thank you guys again for listening to this episode. Don't forget to take your time to rate, review, and subscribe. It's the number one way you can help our show so we can be back here each week with amazing guests, including Marnie.